Billionaire's mysterious illness revealed. Maid discovers amazing secret in wife's meals. It was just another day in the sprawling, glass-encased mansion where Clara, a 32-year-old maid, found herself endlessly scrubbing surfaces that glimmered with wealth but felt cold and distant. The hum of high-tech gadgets surrounded her like a ghost, reminding her of the life she had left in Mexico, struggling to send money back home while existing in the shadows of the ultra-rich. Every time she cleaned Richard's empty office or Leela's meticulously arranged kitchen, she felt his absence, a wealthy man confined to a sickbed, a mere whisper of the grandeur he once embodied. As she dusted a silver frame containing a photo of Richard and Leela at happier times, she couldn't help but feel the weight of her own life pressing down like a heavy fog. Leela's obsession with culinary perfection had escalated into an all-consuming task. Each day, she buried herself in the kitchen, desperate to whip up masterpieces from her grandmother's old cookbook, recipes steeped in nostalgia and whispered secrets. Clara watched her, torn between concern and the instinctive pull of duty. It unsettled her to see Leela's vibrant spirit stifled by grief. Every plate presented with an air of desperation felt like a warning bell ringing louder in Clara's mind. What if Leela's fervent cooking wasn't just about nourishing Richard, but about resurrecting a lost love, or worse, distracting herself from the reality of a deteriorating relationship? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Clara's mind raced as she pondered what lay beneath Leela's culinary creations. What if the elaborate meals, intended to heal, were laced with a deeper affliction? The neglect of Richard's true needs and the suffocating weight of expectations from the outside world. The time she spent observing began to foster a fear in her, a fear that if she confronted this truth, it would awaken more than just Leela's grief. It could unravel the fragile threads of loyalty that held Clara's own life together. How could she reconcile exposing Leela when the stakes were so uncomfortably high? What would become of her job, her livelihood? With each stirring of the pot, every aromatic whiff of herbs, Clara felt the pressure mounting. She caught Leela eyeing her from the corner of the kitchen. The silence between them thickened, and Clara's heart skipped. Just as Leela laughed and offered a taste of another extravagant dish, Clara felt the urgency of moral dilemma clawing at her. Should she let this moral dilemma continue, or should she disrupt the delicate facade of hope and desperation? As Richard's condition dipped further into uncertainty, a gala loomed on the horizon. It was intended to present an image of opulence, yet Clara sensed it was the very catalyst for the deep undercurrents of despair swirling in that toxic atmosphere. And just then, her phone buzzed with a message from home, news that could shatter her whole world. The weight of the moment crashed down on her. She was at a crossroads, caught between two realities more painful than the other. Would she prioritize her own family, or help Lila reconnect with her dying love? With every breath, the tension coiled tighter, leaving Clara on the precipice of decision, heart racing, mind in turmoil, as she stood frozen in the luxurious prison, unsure of the next step. Clara stood in the kitchen, the air thick with tension and the warm aroma of simmering spices, yet it offered little comfort. The weight of Lila's eyes bore down on her, an unspoken question hanging between them. Clara's heart raced as she envisioned the looming gala, a facade for the facade they both wore. What if those extravagant dishes that Lila so meticulously crafted were more than a means to sustain Richard? As the tremors of uncertainty reverberated within her, Clara grappled with her own actions and their implications on her fragile existence. Days morphed into a series of relentless rituals, each meal an intricate painting of hopes intermingled with despair. It was during one of these rituals that Clara stumbled upon a realization, perhaps a hidden talent. Navigating the kitchen, she found herself following snippets of instinct, blending spices, and creating flavors that danced on the palate. It was an unexpected revelation, a spark igniting her creativity behind the stove. With each ingredient she touched, fragments of her past merged with aspirations for the future, reminding her of the simple meals she once prepared back home. Lila began to notice. One evening, as Clara was engrossed in sautéing vegetables, Lila hovered at the threshold, her curiosity piqued. "You've become quite the chef, Clara," she remarked, her tone a mixture of admiration and latent envy. Clara felt a rush of pride swell within her. For a fleeting moment, the lavish kitchen felt like a shared space of discovery rather than the usual tension-filled battleground. "Maybe it's the recipes," Clara said, her voice steady despite the nervous energy crackling in the air. Lila's eyes softened for a moment, an echo of vulnerability flashing across her face. "Cooking has always been a way for me to express love," she confessed, almost to herself. "But it feels different now." The admission hung in the air, revealing the cracks in Lila's confident facade. Clara's instinct compelled her to step closer, to reach out and bridge the chasm between them. Yet fear rooted her in place. What if she pushed too hard? What if this revelation led to a confrontation neither of them was prepared for? Clara wrestled internally, the shifting sands of her own ambitions clashing with a growing sense of responsibility. She was not merely a maid anymore. She was capable of something more: creativity, healing, and perhaps a role in mending the splintered lives around her. The next day, as the gala neared, Clara concocted a daring plan. She decided to prepare a dish of her own design, something bold that would showcase her newfound abilities and could ignite a spark in Lila. It was a gamble that felt dangerously liberating, drawing on her experiences and memories of home, the essence of family woven into the vibrant colors of her company's cuisine. Lila entered the kitchen just as Clara plated the dish, an unexpected look of delight casting aside her earlier apprehensions. Yet just as Clara felt the warmth of that moment, a shadow loomed. Richard's health continued to decline precipitously, and whispers of his impending fate raised the stakes higher than ever. Would this dish, born from Clara's perseverance and spark of creativity, be enough to shift the atmosphere, a final act to stir the hearts of those entrapped in their own despair? As she served the dish to Lila, a clandestine offering of hope and unity, an electric moment hung in the air, one that promised to confront both their fears. Would this dish serve as a catalyst for Lila to reconnect with Richard, or would it expose the deeper cracks in their lives? Clara's heart raced as Lila took her first bite, the world around them fading into silence, every eye on this crucial scene of revelation. And just then, as a quiet tension filled the room, Clara's phone buzzed again. Another message, another reality beckoning her to confront the decisions that would shape not only her future, but the future of those she had grown to care for. What if the choice she was about to make could change everything, for better or worse? Clara's breath hitched as she braced herself for Lila's response. The moment stretched infinitely. The vibrant colors of the dish blurred into a kaleidoscope of uncertainty. The kitchen, once a sanctuary of her newfound talent, transformed into a stage where she stood at the precipice of vulnerability. Had she miscalculated? The stakes felt insurmountable as the ambient sounds of the gala drifted through the kitchen door, fading to a distant hum. Lila chewed slowly, her expression unreadable. Clara's mind raced. What had she hoped would unfold? A bridge built on shared passion, or a confrontation that would unravel both their identities? Figure it out, she urged herself. If this dish didn't resonate, If it didn't ignite some flicker of recognition or rekindle the stagnant shadows clouding their lives, then what was the point? Clara couldn't afford to fail. Not here, not now. "Clara, this is wonderful," Leela finally said, her voice laced with an emotion Clara couldn't pinpoint. Relief washed over her, and yet, was it just polite acknowledgement, or was there a longing hidden in the words? Clara's resolve floated precariously between pride and apprehension. "Thank you," she replied, her voice steady as she watched Leela's reaction closely. "I drew from the flavors that felt like home, something to remember, perhaps." Leela's gaze sharpened, probing, as if Clara had revealed a secret buried beneath layers of culinary artistry and longing. "The things we create can either bury us or set us free," Leela murmured, staring into the remnants of the dish. Clara felt cold prickles of doubt crawl up her spine. Before Clara could respond, her phone buzzed again. The vibrations felt like a shot of electricity cutting through the intimate moment. She glanced at the screen, a message from her brother, reeking of urgency and desperation. He needed help. The weight of the past crashed over her, a reminder of what she had tried to escape. Clara's initial instinct told her to ignore it, to focus on the potential breakthrough happening with Leela. Yet, as another bout of silence settled, she couldn't shake off the gravity of responsibility lurking at the edge of her awareness. "Do you need to take that?" Leela asked, a note of understanding echoing in her tone. But Clara could sense something deeper, a question wrapped in the enigma of their shared silence. "No, it can wait," Clara replied, though her heart raced at the thought of her brother's plea echoing across her consciousness. Was she making the right choice? Would this commitment to Leela and her burgeoning career in the kitchen come at the expense of family loyalty? "Clara, you should answer it. It feels like there's more at stake than just this moment," Leela advised, her tone shifting, as if urging Clara to confront the realities of her multifaceted existence. The door swung open slightly, the chatter and laughter from the crowd beyond melding with their conversation, a stark contrast to the emotional gravity between them. Clara turned her focus back to Leela, recognizing that this is it. This was more than a meal. It was a choice. "Richard's fate is uncertain, and I can't fix that. But I can explore my own path. I don't want to be just a bystander," Clara finally said, her voice unwavering, scaling the walls she had built around her aspirations. The realization burned bright in her heart. She was capable of agency beyond servitude. As the conversation drifted toward the light, Leela looked at Clara, a new resolve shining in her eyes. "Then let's be brave together," she said softly. Clara nodded, feeling the weight of continuity, of potential partnership in both ambition and heartache. But the urgency of her brother's message loomed like a storm cloud. Was she ready to face both her home and her aspirations? With her thoughts racing, Clara felt the pivotal moment hovering on the brink of decision. "I need to make a choice," she whispered, glancing down at her phone. The impending decision threatened to spiral into conflict, an unseen fight between her loyalty to her family and her newfound freedom. "What's it going to be, Clara? The call of duty or the call of your heart?" Leela pressed, every word tinged with anticipation for the choice ahead, and Clara could feel the fragile strings of fate pulling taut, ready to snap into a new beginning or unravel into chaos. The air thickened as she steeled herself for the future ahead. Would she dare to confront the past she had tried to escape, or embrace the uncertain path unfolding before her? Clara's heart raced, heavy with the weight of Leela's question. It echoed in the confines of her mind, amplifying the uncertainty swirling around her. The resolve she had briefly embraced felt frayed, and the looming decision cast a shadow over her ambition. The night glow from the gala illuminated the kitchen, yet she felt trapped in an inner twilight, oscillating between the fierce desire to seize her culinary dreams and the haunting pull of familial duty.
Taking a deep breath, she focused on the subtle aromas that lingered in the air, the spices whispering memories of warmth and comfort. "Leela," she said slowly, drawing the words from a place of contemplation, "I want this. I want our passion to succeed. But I can't ignore my brother. I can't pretend I don't care." "Understanding is crucial, Clara," Leela countered, her tone soothing yet firm. "But realize that attending to your dreams doesn't mean abandoning him. Could it be possible to create a balance?" Clara found herself drawn into Leela's perspective, a thought that had laid dormant in the chaos of recent weeks. The idea of crafting a new reality, one where loyalty to family coexisted with her aspirations, began to form a fragile foundation beneath her own confidence. "What does that look like?" Clara questioned, her voice barely above a whisper. "It requires strength and creativity," Leela replied, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "Perhaps your culinary exploration can also be a bridge. Bring Richard into this. Make your journey part of his healing process. Involve him in the meals you create. Let him taste the transformations you both need." For the first time, Clara envisioned a world where her culinary journey intertwined with her brother's struggles, not as adversaries but as allies in the messy reality of life. Vulnerability surged through her, but instead of fear, Clara felt an overwhelming surge of hope. But could she pull this off? Doubt lurked at the fringes of her mind. She had spent years feeling trapped in the shadows of responsibility, caretaking while stifling her own dreams. "My cooking isn't just a craft," Clara murmured, her thoughts unspooling. "It's a part of me. But can I truly integrate these two worlds together? The kitchen is—" She paused, searching for clarity amidst the muddled layers of dialogue in her mind. "An escape as much as it is a sanctuary." "Then let it be both," Leela encouraged. "Your passion will inform your purpose. Through every dish you prepare, weave your journey with both flavors and intention." As Clara absorbed Lila's words, the knot in her stomach began to loosen. Maybe this was the answer she had been seeking. By intertwining her ambitions with her responsibility towards Richard, she could redefine their narratives, transforming both of their lives through the meals she prepared. "Let's set a plan," Clara said, newfound determination lighting her eyes. "I'll create meals that encompass what both Richard and I need. I can make recipes that reflect his memories, the times we shared as kids, and pour my hopes for the future into them." Lila smiled, a genuine beam that seemed to illuminate the kitchen. "See, Clara, you're already beginning. It's about stepping forward. Clarity unfolds with intention." But as that determination solidified within her, another message pinged insistently on her phone, slicing through their shared moment. She glanced down, and her heart dropped. It was Richard again, his words desperate, tinged with frustration. Clara's pulse quickened. How could she juggle both worlds effectively when her brother was reaching out in despair? The balance she sought seemed impossibly distant. "I have to respond," she said, her voice tight with apprehension. "He needs me right now." "Absolutely," Lila affirmed, though Clara could sense her apprehension as the gravity of the situation settled over them like a thick fog. "But remember, this is just the beginning. You're weaving two essential paths, and the way forward isn't always clear." As Clara hesitated, staring at the screen, uncertainty washed over her like an impending tide. Would responding to Richard pull her back into the past she was so desperate to transcend? Or could it offer her the chance to forge a new path, one that intertwined her passions and her responsibilities? In that moment, Clara recognized a flicker of identity flickering within her, a hesitant but unmistakable feeling of empowerment. What would she say to Richard? With every push of her finger against the screen, she would be making more than just a decision. She was redefining her life. It was now or never. Would she plunge into the depths of familial obligation at her own expense, or could she somehow step into the light and embrace the two spheres that defined her? Clara pressed send, and in that instant the future morphed into an uncertain labyrinth of possibility. Now all she could do was wait for his response and hope it illuminated the path she dared to tread. Clara stared at the phone, biting her lip, as seconds turned into minutes. Each notification chime from her device made her heart race, a constant reminder of the tension between her hopes and the heavy responsibilities pulling at her. She paced the kitchen, the delicate scents of herbs and spices melding into a cosmic tapestry of past meals, each one a story, an effort, or a memory. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the kitchen with shadows, her resolve began to dissipate. Would Richard understand the duality of her intentions? Would he see her cooking not just as an escape from caregiving,
A chance to nurture both of their spirits? She turned back to Leela, who was now chopping vegetables, her hands moving swiftly yet gracefully like a dancer on the stage. "What if he isn't open to it?" Clara asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if he sees this as a betrayal?" "There's only one way to find out," Leela replied, her gaze lifting to meet Clara's. "Communicate. You're not just his sister, you're his ally in the healing process. Show him that you're there for him." Clara took a deep breath, a plan forming slowly amidst the storm of self-doubt. She would prepare a meal that honored Richard's favorite childhood dishes, blended with new flavors that represented her aspirations. "I could reach out about dinner tomorrow. We could make it a whole experience," she proposed, eager to transmit her ideas into actions. "Great idea. Make it special, Clara. It's not just about the food, it's the emotional connection you're fostering." Clara nodded, her spirit revitalizing with each passing second. This meal could be the first step toward blending their worlds, a meeting of old memories and new beginnings. She grabbed her phone again, carefully typing out a message that read, "Hey Richard, how about a dinner tomorrow? I want to cook some of your favorites and try something new too." After pressing send, a wave of vulnerability washed over her. Would Richard see it as an act of love or an intrusion? But it was too late to second-guess her intentions. She had already crossed that line of familiar obligation toward a territory of shared healing. As she prepared the meal, each ingredient ignited a spark of nostalgia within her, each chop and stir serving as a tactile meditation on their shared history. She let herself fall into the rhythm, pouring her energy into the dishes, invoking memories of laughter and warmth that once filled their home. Just as the aromatic scent of garlic and thyme filled the air, her phone chimed. Clara's heart quickened while she reached for it, bracing against anxiety. Richard's response was immediate. "Dinner sounds good. What time?" Relief washed over her, mingling with excitement. When Richard arrived the next evening, Clara felt the weight of her previous apprehensions still lingering in the air. She had set a beautiful table, showcasing not only her culinary talents, but also her intention to foster healing. The warmth of the home was palpable, but an undercurrent of tension clung to her like a second skin. As they began to eat, Clara watched Richard savor each bite. His expressions reflected both nostalgia and curiosity, indicating a possible breakthrough. Yet the silence of the room grew heavy. It was a silence laden with unspoken words and unresolved pain. In the midst of this emotional banquet, a pivotal thought flicked through Clara's mind. Would this moment offer them both the catharsis they needed, or would it break them apart even further? A sudden, sharp knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. Clara's heart sank, an instinctive tension gripping her as the knock came again, this time louder, more insistent. Was it an external disruption, or an omen signaling further turbulence in her journey? Clara exchanged an anxious glance with Richard, who looked just as startled as she felt. "Should I get that?" she asked hesitantly, a bead of sweat forming at her temple. Richard nodded, but the resemblance of uncertainty between them turned the air thick with anticipation. Who or what stood outside their door, ready to unveil yet another layer of their intertwined paths? Clara approached the door, swallowed hard, and turned the handle.
Clara opened the door with trepidation, her heart racing in anticipation of what might be on the other side. The hinges creaked as the door swung inward, revealing a stooped figure, clad in a weathered trench coat, a worn-out hat tipped low over their face. The shadows complicated the figure's features, casting an air of uncertainty that flickered against the warmth behind her. "Can I help you?" Clara's voice came out steadier than she felt, yet within her waves of doubt cascaded. What intrusion could this stranger be bringing into their carefully orchestrated evening? The figure straightened and pulled back the brim of the hat, revealing sunken eyes that sparkled with urgency. "Clara, is it? I've been looking for you," the stranger said, their voice rich with a mix of desperation and resolve. "This is urgent. It's about Richard. He needs to know." The mention of Richard sent a chill down Clara's spine. "What do you mean? How do you know my brother?" She took a cautious step backwards, shutting out the memories of their childhood bliss that had once felt invulnerable. "I've worked closely with him," the stranger said, eyes darting nervously. "But I can't explain it all here. Can I come in?" Clara hesitated, torn. The atmosphere in the kitchen buzzed with the remnants of dinner, yet an intangible threat hovered at the door. Moments stretched sluggishly as she weighed her options. Was inviting in this stranger worth the risk? What secrets could unravel before them? She glanced back at Richard, who had abandoned his meal, his eyes fixated on the door's unfolding drama. He was alert now, recognizing the urgency laden in Clara's uncertainty. "Clara, let them in. If they have information about my health," he trailed off, frustration etching his features. Taking a deep breath, Clara stepped aside, granting entry to the mysterious figure. As the stranger crossed the threshold, the air shifted, charged with unspoken truths. "Thank you," the stranger whispered, as they stepped into the warmth of the kitchen, now laden with contrasting emotions. "You must know the truth about Richard's situation. It's not what he thinks." Clara's heart raced as she silently beckoned Richard to listen, the simmering curiosity turning into an undeniable drive for clarity. Could this unexpected guest shatter her fragile perception of their world? The stranger's gaze locked onto Richard's, conveying a mixture of pity and resolve. "Your sister
is not just trying to nourish you with her food. She's unwittingly been part of something much larger." Richard's brow furrowed, visibly shaken. "What do you mean? What are you implying?" The stranger continued. "The health complications you're facing now, they are not solely genetic. There are elements intertwined that you've yet to confront. Your condition stems from the imbalance that surrounds you, and perhaps the very meals Clara has prepared might be holding you back instead of helping." Clara felt the ground shift beneath her. Every pulse in her heart was now accompanied by a creeping dread. Had she unknowingly hindered him? Richard's anger flared, eyes flashing. "Are you saying my sister's cooking is the problem? You're out of your mind." "No," the stranger insisted, voice steady. "I'm saying there are underlying factors at play. We need to dig deeper into your past, your relationships, everything." Clara's world wobbled as layers of manipulation began to unravel within her thoughts. Not only was this ambiguous figure threatening her culinary intentions, but they were unraveling a narrative that she had fiercely clung to. "What do you know about Richard's past that we don't?" she demanded, her voice a mix of defiance and distress. The stranger hesitated, shadows passing over their face. "Everything. But the truth is painful, and it might mean you risk losing not only your brother, but—" The words hung heavily in the air, laced with dread and anticipation. Clara felt the enormity of the revelation crawling over her skin, each moment pulling her deeper into unknown territories. Would she choose to confront the shadows lurking in Richard's past, exposing them to light and possibly devastation, or turn away and risk the fragile connection they had begun to rebuild? The dinner had transformed into a crucible of conflicting emotions, and in the heart of that allegory, Clara realized she stood at a crossroads. Would she summon the courage to confront whatever lurked in Richard's past? As the stranger prepared to unveil the chilling truths behind Richard's sudden illness, a weighty decision pressed down on Clara: to embrace the unknown or retreat to the deceptive comfort of familiarity. The tension coiled, not just within her, but between all present, as Clara faced the uncertainty that loomed just beyond the dimmed lights of their kitchen. With resilience fluttering within her, she took the plunge into the abyss of revelation, determined that knowledge might be the path to healing for them both. Clara stood at the precipice of a decision that would irrevocably alter the course of her life and her brother's. The gravitas of the stranger's words hung like an oppressive fog, blurring the edges of her thoughts. What had she known about Richard's life and health? Had her resolve to care for him blinded her to the realities lurking just out of sight? With a firm yet trembling voice, she returned her focus to the stranger. "What do you mean by 'the truth is painful'? Are you suggesting that my efforts to
help Richard, everything I've done, could be part of the problem?" The stranger's sunken eyes persevered, revealing an unyielding truth. "You've only gotten half the story, Clara. Your intentions are honorable, but the foods you prepare might inadvertently unlock something buried within him, something tied to his past." Richard stood there, his expression shifting from anger to fear, confusion flooding his features. "You need to tell us everything," he demanded, slight desperation lacing his tone. "If there's something to be uncovered, we need to do it together." Clara's heart raced. Could the stranger's insistence intertwine her brother's future with darkness? Were they on the brink of unearthing ghosts best left buried? Yet she felt a flicker of determination stirring within. If confronting this truth could bring Richard healing, then it was a challenge she could not shy away from. "Fine," Clara said, forcing a steadiness into her tone. "Tell us what we need to know." The figure straightened, a resolution forming amidst the shadows. "Richard, your condition isn't solely of the body. It's metaphysical, tied to your emotions and your history. There are events you've hidden away, memories locked tightly, that resonate within the meals Clara serves. It's not just what you eat, it's how those meals trigger the past." Clara strained to grasp the implications. Memories tied to food and Richard's history? Surfaced like a bubbling cauldron. The family meals had always been a comfort, a way to hold on to threads of connection. With every bite, had she unknowingly evoked a recall of trauma or loss? "Stop," Richard interjected, his voice edging on panic. "Just tell me what you know." "I can't delve into this without your full consent," the stranger replied slowly, as if weighing options, measuring the impact of their words. "But I can guide you both if you're willing to face uncomfortable truths. You must understand your past, every painful moment that connects your illness to those meals. The choice of how to heal lies at your feet, Richard. You can choose to stay in the comfort of ignorance, or you can confront the harsh realities for growth." Clara's stomach tightened. Ignorance had felt like safety, but that sanctuary was crumbling. A visceral sense of duty rose in her, igniting her resolve. The fear of what could come shattered against the necessity of confronting an uncertain future. "Let's do it," Clara said, voice firm. "Let's confront whatever it is." Richard, still grappling with disbelief and fear, turned to his sister. "Clara, are you sure?" Standing together in this moment, Clara glimpsed the beginning of a shared journey. Maybe this was the catalyst for healing, for both of them.
They had to push through the uncomfortable, shrouded in resolve, an uncharted path unfolding before them. The room fell silent, heavy with the gravity of their decision, as the stranger prepared to illuminate the shadows that intertwined with Richard's life. Each detail, each memory, could serve as a dagger or a balm.
But simultaneously, a thought flickered in Clara's mind. What if this wasn't just about Richard? In facing his past, might she finally face her own? The strands of uncertainty began to knot tighter, a tapestry of revelations ready to unravel. With the stranger poised to divulge the depths of Richard's past, Clara felt the uneasy thrill of anticipation. Whatever lay ahead, a discovery awaited that could tear them apart or bind them closer than ever before. As the moment urged forward, suspicions brewing, Clara's pulse quickened. They were on the brink of uncovering secrets that might not only reshape the narratives of their lives, but challenge the very foundation of who they thought they were. The decision to charge headfirst into the unknown sparked an alarming thought. Was she prepared to confront the dark legacy woven within their family's history? The stranger leaned closer, intensity radiating from his presence. To heal Richard, you both need to trace the threads of your past. Those meals you cherish were laden with history, flavors that conjured up ghosts. It's essential to acknowledge the pain tucked inside the bites. Clara's heart raced as she processed his words, feeling the tension tightening around her chest. Unraveling their past felt insurmountable, but the urgency of their connection sparked a resolve that she hadn't anticipated. Could they really confront such weighty emotions? What if the very foundation of their family crumbled under scrutiny? "Where do we begin?" Richard asked, his voice shaking slightly, revealing the vulnerability behind his bravado. The stranger paused, gauging their readiness. "Start with the meals that carry the most significant. Each dish can evoke specific memories. What do you remember about them, Richard? What about when you were a child?" Richard turned toward Clara, seeking reassurance. She nodded, steeling herself for whatever revelations could surface. His lips pressed together, hesitation flickering in his eyes. "Mom used to make lasagna every Sunday. We had this tradition," Richard said slowly, his voice trembling ever so slightly. "The sauce was her recipe. She always said it was something special. But I remember one day a fight broke out during dinner, and it ruined everything." "Don't shy away," the stranger urged. "What was that fight about?" Richard's gaze drifted, as if retreating into a space of forgotten memories. "It was about Dad. I don't even remember what prompted it, but—" He stopped mid-sentence, his breath hitching. "It just spiraled. The night tasted bitter. I couldn't touch the lasagna after that. It felt tainted." Clara felt a lump form in her throat. In that moment, the ghost of their family's dynamic felt palpable, twisting through the air. "So the meals, you taste them, but feel the pain instead of comfort?" she asked softly, a wave of understanding washing over her. Richard nodded, the rawness of his emotions laid bare. "I guess I never understood how much those moments lingered in my mind. Those events leave an imprint, especially when they're tied to a ritual like a family meal," the stranger explained. "Food entwines with memory. To truly heal, Richard, you must unearth those emotions, navigate through the hurt, and perhaps find forgiveness for yourself and your family." Clara's thoughts raced. Forgiveness echoed in her mind, resonating with the myriad of dissent and silence surrounding their household. Deep within, she realized that she too had yet to confront her own feelings about their family's turbulent past, the damage the silence had wrought. "Richard, if you can face this, I can face what I've been avoiding too," Clara said, her voice steadying. "We shouldn't carry our pain alone." Richard looked at her, the bond of sibling solidarity glimmering amidst uncertainty. "Together, then?" he asked, voice quivering but resolute. "Together," Clara affirmed. As their eyes met, a sense of empowerment surged within Clara. Through her brother's vulnerabilities, she felt her own fears begin to fracture.
Perhaps this journey toward understanding was not merely Richard's. I stood on the brink of my personal awakening. The moment felt seismic, a shift that propelled her toward a deeper understanding of herself. As her brother unearths the latent burdens of their family, she too could dig through the layers of her own identity. "What do you need from us?" Richard turned to the stranger, determination flickering behind his former retreat. "Recall and express vividly. Tell the stories of the meals. Share the bittersweet recollections. Don't shy away. Embrace the discomfort. The more you delve into the truth, the clearer your paths to healing will become." With a deep breath, Richard steeled himself. "Let's uncover whatever's hiding there, Clara," he compelled. "It's time." The thought sent ripples of fear and anticipation through Clara. They were about to traverse unmarked territory, unearthing painful memories that had for too long lingered as shadows. She sensed they stood on the cusp of something transformative, a confrontation that promised clarity but also risked fracture. As the first story rolled off Richard's tongue, a vulnerable recount of what lasagna meant, threading through anger and hurt, Clara felt the weight of their collective scars shift, igniting a fire within her. But as the words poured forth, Clara wondered, with each revelation, would she be able to handle the burden that came with it? What secrets might she discover about her own part in this tangled web? With the past crackling to life, she sensed the revelation that was about to unfold. Not just Richard's liberation, but a truth about her own buried fears, waiting to be faced. The air thickened with the promise of impending discovery, love, and perhaps profound grief. Richard's voice trembled as he continued to recite memories layered with bitterness, a delicate thread of vulnerability woven through each word. Clara leaned in, her heart sinking with the urgency embedded in his tales. They were no longer merely recounting family history, they were excavating the very essence of their shared childhood. Yet with every recollection brought to light, Clara felt her own forgotten pain rising to the surface, like ghosts rattling chains in the dark corners of her mind.
"I just remember how each dinner felt like a countdown." Richard's voice wavered, recalling another moment at the dinner table, the weight of silence pressing down violently. "We were together, but so far apart. I saw it in Mom's eyes. They were hollow, like she was trying to fill a void with food, but could never quite do it." Clara's throat tightened. Richard wasn't just uncovering family trauma. He was unearthing her own buried responses to their mother's emotional neglect. She had often masked her discomfort behind a facade of indifference, but a small, nagging voice wondered if she had simply been projecting her pain onto the meals that usually brought them together, those dishes that transformed into battlegrounds instead. "What about you, Clara?" Richard's sudden question drew her back into the moment. His eyes searched hers, sparking a deeper intimacy in their struggle. "Do you remember anything like that?" The question loomed, an invitation wrapped in anxiety. Clara wrestled internally, caught between the desire to withdraw from probing shadows and the urge to confront them head-on. "I remember the smell of her cookies," she finally responded, her voice soft yet determined. "They always filled the house with warmth, but when the oven timer rang, it just felt like the calm before a storm. She'd bake, but the real sweetness didn't always reach our hearts." Richard nodded, and Clara sensed an understanding spark between them. Like she was trying to douse the flames, but only stoked them instead, he remarked, his eyes narrowing in shared remembrance. Their shared acknowledgement created a bond forged from a collective past, yet Clara was left with a sense of urgency as she realized the burden of these memories was hers to navigate now too. Yet deep down, a flame of rebellion ignited within her. She couldn't simply exist in the haze of family dysfunction. She needed a plan. "But what if we transform that pain?" she proposed suddenly, the words tumbling out like a grain of sand causing an avalanche in her mind. What if we commemorate those memories, learn to cook those dishes with the sentiments we once lacked? Richard seemed taken aback, his brow furrowing as he processed her suggestion. You think we can turn that bitterness into something constructive? Absolutely. We take those recipes, every lasagna layer, every last drop of sauce, and infuse them with our own meanings. They shouldn't control us anymore. We can turn them into something beautiful together. Richard's hesitation began to thaw, warmth creeping back into his demeanor. Clara could see the wheels turning in his mind, sensing that a shift was brewing within him as well. It could be a way to confront those painful moments without feeling broken by them. The stranger, who had been observing in silence, broke in, his voice probing gently. It seems you've both taken a critical step. The key will be in your ability to create and share those new experiences while fully embracing the emotions attached to the old ones. Can you commit to
Honoring that struggle? Clara and Richard exchanged a deeply resolute glance. This was as much about their family's legacy as it was about reclaiming their own identities from the past. Together, Clara affirmed again, this time with more conviction. She felt ready to uncover, to reshape, and to invite guests to this journey of healing, both culinary and emotional. Yet something stirred within her, a flicker of doubt. Would her enthusiasm be enough to combat the weight of memories pooled in the shadows? Could she genuinely transform those feelings, or would they haunt her each step of the way? The air shimmered with possibilities, but Clara recognized her fragile resolve amidst the exhilarating uncertainty. "What if we stumble?" she whispered, almost questioning her own intentions. Richard's hand curled around hers. "We will stumble, Clara, but we'll stumble forward, together." Together. The word held more promise than she had dared to believe. It was no longer about just facing Richard's pain. It was about a shared rebirth, both nourishing and enlightening. As the conversation swirled with risk and excitement, Clara looked towards the stranger. "What's the next step?" "You will create, and in your cooking, you'll uncover healing. But it won't be easy. Expect resistance. Facing ghosts doesn't come without fight." Clara clenched her jaw, ready to meet that resistance head-on. What she hadn't anticipated was the fight that would soon follow, the moments that might not just challenge their resolve, but unravel buried truths about her own life. She sensed the winds of transformation building, and, despite her uncertainty, a flicker of anticipation replaced her fear. As they prepared to breathe new life into old meals, Clara couldn't shake the feeling that the real challenge was just on the horizon, waiting to reveal the depths of her unacknowledged fears. What revelations would their cooking unearth? And would Clara's past finally be willing to reveal its more profound secrets? Weeks flowed into a rhythm of culinary creativity, entwined with the echoes of healing. Yet Clara felt the weight of their new venture growing heavier with each meal. Armed with Richard, she found solace in the familiar embrace of culinary tradition, but stirring those old recipes echoed with the unresolved emotions buried deep within her. Every dish, painstakingly crafted with twists of innovation, carried an underlying pulse, a reminder of the darkness they were unearthing. On an early autumn evening, Clara stood in the kitchen, the scent of roasted tomatoes mingling with fresh basil as she prepared the family's cherished lasagna. The ingredients came to life beneath her hands, yet the intimacy of the task brought a rush of nostalgia so strong it brought tears to her eyes. Richard watched intently, curiosity shadowing the sadness on his face. "Are you okay?" he asked, concern lacing his tone. "Just memories," she admitted, sweeping away a tear with the back of her hand. "This was Mom's favorite to prepare, and I realize now she poured her love and pain into it." Richard nodded,
tapping into his own thoughts as
He measured out the cheeses. I remember how, after every family dinner, I wanted to scream because it was so perfect and so broken at the same time. Well, we're here now, and we're going to make it right, Clara replied, fire igniting in her words. In moments like these, she could build something on the ashes of the past. Maybe they could reframe the narrative and uncover what love really meant through food. As they layered the flavors, Richard spoke up. "What's your vision for this meal? How do you want it to feel?" Clara paused, considering the weight of his question. "I want it to express unity. It's both an homage to our roots and a reclamation of our journey forward. It should honor what was lost without trapping us in the past." Richard bit his lip, absorbing Clara's determination. In the following moments, they infused this dish with deliberate memories. Laughter echoing through the kitchen, the warmth of still days fading into evening dusk. They unraveled layers of mistrust and resentment baked into their past, letting the healing begin with each stir, each taste. When dinner was finally plated, it sparkled with vibrant colors and fragrant steam. Clara and Richard exchanged glances filled with determination. This was more than merely a meal. It was an awakening. Clara could feel the shift, the fusion of memories, battling to protect against despair, but unearthing the glimmers of hope. "Let's face Dad's lasagna," Richard said, thrusting his fork into the rich helping on his plate. "Maybe we give it its own voice now." "Exactly," Clara agreed, her spirit rising in agreement. "By tasting this dish, we honor everything, the love we shared and the edges that cut us." As they sat at the table, awaiting the moment approach between them, they began to eat. It felt like they were unearthing the past one bite at a time. Each taste reminded them of both parental love intertwined with unspoken frustrations. Each flavor allocated space for reconciliation and rebirth. Claire's chest tightened as she tasted garlic mingling with tomatoes, a vibrant reminder of their mother's overzealous attempts at comfort food. Richard chewed slowly, processing not just the taste, but the memories lining each bite. "This is transcendent," he breathed, eyes sparkling. "It's like I'm confronting every lost opportunity, but discovering new strength." A flicker of pride lit Clara's heart. They were reconstructing their narrative, together. "This is a meal to reclaim our future," she said, lifting her fluted glass, sparkles dancing against the light. Richard mirrored her gesture, and in that moment they toasted to their new journey, a commitment forged amidst inked pasts and layered hopes. With renewed vigor flowing through their discourse, Clara sensed the burden she bore begin to lift. There was breathing room now, a space to address her own uncertainties that could mingle with the illuminating aura surrounding them. But just as the laughter poured forth and the weight of burdens lifted, the doorbell rang unexpectedly, causing their spirits to collide with apprehension. "Who could that be?" Richard asked, a hint of tension returning to his voice. Clara's heart raced, knowing this moment could not just impact them, but could force a critical confrontation of their fears. As they exchanged glances, Clara stepped toward the door, an instinctive hesitation stirring. When she opened the door, the visceral punch pulled her breath. It was their father, burdened by years spent with regret, etched deeply into the lines of his face. "Clara," he rasped, fear mirrored under his brow. "I need to talk." "Dad," Clara breathed, indecision swirling in the air thickly. "What are you doing here?" "Playing catch-up, I guess. I've realized some things lately, and I want to make amends." It was as if time folded in that moment, two pasts colliding, ready to face the present. She could see Richard at the table, uncertainty flashing through him as he listened. Clara knew this was it, the confrontation they had prepared themselves for, yet still felt unready to encompass. "Come inside," she said firmly, the invitation revealing her own courage yearning to confront the past. How could she navigate this reconciliation while still standing firm in her own aspirations?
As they all gathered around the table, Clara felt the air begin to crackle with potential, a battle of shared truths, insecurities, and hope ready to unfold. In stirring this pot of memories, she sensed an impending transformation, one that could weld their hearts anew or rip the seams of their fractured family history. Once again, Clara stood at the intersection of her past and future, inspiring both her own revelation and acting as a buoy amid Richard's healing. Together, as they faced their father, they were poised to transform every painful recipe into a powerful story of redemption. They had begun unearthing the emotional layers of their meals, but the question remained at the forefront of Clara's heart. Would they emerge from this confrontation defined by their struggles, or might they find freedom in finally facing their past?